Hello and welcome to another episode of Seven Story Podcast. I'm Natasha Kyler and I'm here with today's featured author, Spencer Steeves. Spencer Steeves is Enter the realm of Spencer Steeves, a modern day bard weaving tales of wonder and adventure that transport readers to realms untouched by mortal foot. From the quaint streets of small Connecticut town to the far reaches of Kellis and Terrain Chittle, Spencer's journey is one of boundless imaginations and relentless creativity. Hi, Spencer. How are you doing today?
Doing pretty well, and yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. And can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Well, as you said, my name is Spencer Steeves. I am a aspiring and indie author living out on Martha's Vineyard currently. I work as a pharmacy technician, and in my free time, I enjoy just writing whatever ideas come to mind.
I love that. And can you tell us a little bit about how you started with your writing journey?
It all started when I was very young. I always had just imagination was just my strong suit. I would spend most of my days out in my backyard playing with sticks and pretending they were weapons or giant creatures and just battling with them in my imagination. My parents thought I was crazy, but I was, you know, well, authors aren't a little crazy, right?
No, I get it. I did similar things. I was able to entertain myself all by myself in the backyard. And can you tell us a little bit about your first novel?
So my first novel, Everything Under the Sun, it is a story about an empire on the verge of collapse. It is the kingdom of Sun's Reach has been isolated from its enemy nation of Moonwatch for almost 400 years, and uh, it's been a time of peace for the most part. But in recent times, there have been signs of darkness starting to come to claim this land of the sun once more. And as the story progresses, there are more and more shadows from their ancient enemies start to arise to take over the land.
Very, very interesting. And how did you come up with that?
So it's actually rather interesting. The story started as a board game design project in a senior year of high school class. It was video game design, and we did a whole bunch of different projects. And then we did a project where they wanted us to create a board game, and I ended up taking pretty much full creative lead on that because I got stuck in that position where nobody else wants to do any work, so you take over the entire project. And so I just started making a world, and in it being Sun's Reach. I had the basic ideas for a couple of main characters, a couple of side characters, mostly side characters, honestly. One character didn't even show up until book 2, ended up being one of the playable tokens on the board, and I made a little voice trailer with each of the characters and a little flavor text cards, and it ended up being like a Candyland style game. Awful board game, but interesting interesting plot. And those ideas just kind of stuck around for a bit. And when I was in my first year of college, community college, I just was struck by the desire to actually write something. And I sat down in the computer lab and just started typing. I ended up going back there between every single class, and then I'd stay for hours after the end of class just writing. And by the end of that month, I had the first draft of the book done. Mm. It still shocks me to this day that I managed to do that in a month.
That's so impressive. A month. Wow.
Yeah, I've been able to capture that level of skill again.
I'm genuinely shocked. Like, if just 1 month, I feel like everyone I've talked to, they're like, "Yeah, the first draft took me a year, 2 years," and you're like, "A month."
The editing afterwards to make it like actually polish story and flesh it out did end up taking about a year afterwards, but the first draft was done in a month, and I've just been going from there.
Wow, that's amazing. And the idea that it started based off a board game is really interesting. Would you
Mm-hmm.
ever consider turning it back into a game, like maybe a video game or something of that nature?
Uh, I think that would be an interesting venture if I could get the people and the to do it. Actually, there was once where another project I ended up taking full full creative lead on for a video game enthusiast club in an earlier year in high school, and I ended up making a different like a concept for a video game that everyone actually had a lot of people being like, I would play that game. Like, you know what? I would too. Why haven't anyone made it yet?
Definitely your calling to write, and definitely could branch that out into writing games.
Yeah.
um, and how did you come up with the title for not only the book but also the land in which it takes place?
So Sun's Reach is a land that has been locked underneath the sun. The In Sun's Reach, the sun never fully sets. It starts off high in the sky and slowly at noon it's high in the sky, and it makes its way down to the period called sunfall, where it just hangs like in a permanent sunset position uh, as the result of a curse long ago set by one of the ancient enemies mentioned in the series. It is the rival nation to Moonwatch, which is just the opposite. It is everything is under the darkness and the moon. And the name Everything Under the Sun actually came from a short story that I never wrote. It was based on I had like an idea for a short story for a briefly appearing side character in book one, Odala Walla, the gnome orator, basically the ambassador to the gnomes. And she was just going around doing her job and delivering letters to everyone under the sun. And then all of a sudden, everything under us. And then I was like thinking of like, hey, what do I actually name this book? And I was like, well, I haven't written that short story yet, so I haven't used the title. Here we go. That works.
I love that. And Everything Under the Sun would be book one out of the series. Is it
Yeah,
a trilogy
it's
or?
a trilogy. It's eventually I intend for this to be kind of like an epic. There's going to be I have like plans for 3 different trilogies, each following different sets of characters. There's the Sunrise arc, which I just finished with uh, Blood of the Sun, and I have the Arc of the Moon, which is coming up, which is going to come up next, following the world directly afterwards, um, after the events of Sun's Reach, but in the neighboring kingdom of Moonwatch. And then there's the Eclipse arc, which will take place in the uh, land between the two.
I love this. I love your ability to world build. That is so incredible. It's so detailed and thought out. Tell me a little bit about that process.
So most of my ideas come from just dreams and random ideas that just pop up out of nowhere. It's funny, you always hear the memes, the stories of I sat down to write and 3 hours later, blank page. Well, that's pretty much how it goes, unless my brain's in a forgiving mood. I'll just be I'll just be sitting and doing anything else but writing, and my brain will be like, "Hey, so here's this idea," or I'll be out at work and my brain will just say, okay, so here's like a full conversation between these characters. I'm like, I'm working, I don't have time to write this down. Please remember this, brain. And my brain just loves to present ideas to me and just throw me off my loop, so that I can just make make my stories. I've always viewed myself as more less of a creator and more of a seer. Um, I get the honor of glimpsing into the worlds of Keyless and Terranekidal to see the stories that are happening in those worlds, and I just have the duty to write them down as they occur.
I resonate with everything you said very strongly. The best ideas come when you are busy doing something else. That's why
I
shower thoughts is such a popular phrase. Um, and your philosophy of being a seer, I resonate with that very strongly because I feel like these are worlds that exist somewhere else, and I just
mm-hmm.
happen to have little glimpses into them, and I get to capture them and share them in this realm.
Yeah,
Um, so I like that a lot actually. And so with that, when you are writing down how the characters are, how does that work for you? Like is it, oh, I think they're like this, or are you kind of just going with the flow?
it's very much a go with the flow sort of mentality. I spend a lot of time just in my characters' heads. A lot of my writing is through dialogue and through inner monologues, just seeing how the characters think about their own with the world around them. And I call the system conversational world building, where you build up the world based on the people's effect on it, their opinions on it. Um, and so my characters are the ones guiding me through my world. They're the ones building my world because they live in it, and I'm just getting to enter their heads and visit with their perspectives.
I absolutely love that. I think that is such a effective system for someone that's visualizes it the way we do, because it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'm just kind of taking a peek into what your day-to-day life is like, and what your background and your upbringing and all the different things that make up who you are as a character, as a person, what that looks like. um, do you hope readers take anything specific away from this trilogy specifically?
Um, I don't really like to put messages in my work. I write for the sake of writing and for the sake of telling a story. So if anything, I'd hope they just take away a few quotable lines and an enjoyment of the story.
I love that. And they say that the best writers are profound readers. So, what are some of your favorite genres to read?
I read almost exclusively fantasy, but I read a lot of subgenres within fantasy. I love anything from young adult to a little bit of sci-fi. Not much sci-fi. I'm not a big fan of machinery or any of that science. Though I did go for a science degree, which I did not succeed. That's why I'm a creative. Um, and I there are a lot of I've read a lot of different books. If I had to recommend a few in particular, I really enjoy the works of Mercedes Lackey. She's a I found that she's actually a lot lesser known author than I thought she was. I mentioned to her to a lot of people, and they're like, "Who?" And I'm just like, "How do you not know her? She's one of the most influential authors in my personal writing career. The reason why I actually ended up writing part of the story of Sun's Reach in a desert was because of something that happened in her Enduring Flame trilogy, where they went to a desert. A lot of the story was taking place in a desert, and I resonated with that vision, that place, and I wanted to write my own story set in a desert, which
I
led
love
to
that.
Amaru's whole story.
I think that's so cool. I love when our inspiration, we can take inspiration from different places and see how we can put our own twist onto it rather than just straight copying things.
Mm-hmm.
It's always fun to see how you can weave your creativity in and out of different aspects of things. Shifting into your experience as a writer, you mentioned that you're a pharmacy tech. When do you typically find the time to write now?
It's usually in the like hour or so between when I wake up and when I have to go to work, or when I'm I usually ride my bike, so I would to work. So when I'm thinking, I'm thinking about my stories when I'm biking, and sometimes when the weather's bad, I'll take the bus system. There's an amazing bus system here on the island, and I just will just start writing while I'm waiting for the bus, and while sitting on the bus, and while waiting to punch in. And besides that, it's my days off and the hours, like the hours between when I'm not at work and when I'm at, when I'm at home, when I'm not at work. Those are the only times I have time to write.
Right. And I know you said that during the first draft, you knocked that out on a computer in a month. So do you still typically just do digitally, or do you sometimes do pen and paper, whatever's available at that time?
I generally just do digitally these days. I actually used to write things out at work. I was when I was a cashier. Still, I would have receipt tapes that I would write on. I actually have a few here. I would
Wow.
just print out receipt tapes, and now I have to find which place I pulled these from. Whoops, I'll do that later. Um, uh, so I just write out receipt tapes and just scroll my stories on those tapes. I once there was one time I did a D&D one shot, and um, I I just had the desire to write that one shot as a story. So the next day I was at work, and it was in the middle of COVID. So they had me on door watching patrol. I just had to stand at the door and count the people who went in and left, which was absurdly boring. So I just printed out like 5 full length receipt tapes and just started writing. Uh, 2 shifts later, I had the entirety of the short story Black Ties Unravel written.
Wow. And do you publish your short stories anywhere?
Yes, I publish. I haven't published most of my longer short stories, but I put my shorter short stories up on Weedsy, which is they have like a prompt section where they will every week they send out prompts, and I will answer those occasionally and post those up on the Weedsy blog hosted on the site.
Nice, nice. Um, what is your favorite thing about being a writer?
My favorite thing about being a writer is just the time I get to spend in my world. It's being able to just being able to spend time in the worlds that are out there in the multitude vastness of space, and get to know my characters. Some of my best friends are the characters that I've created or that I live in, and it's really interesting just seeing how their stories conclude.
I agree with that. I love going, okay, now I'm going to drift on to sleep in this world. Does it work like that? Sometimes, most times no, but
Yep.
it's fun to kind of visualize, oh, this is what this room looks like and the details and things of that nature. What do you think is the most difficult thing about being a writer?
So a lot of people often have issues with writer's block, and while I do occasionally run into that, I end up having a lot of trouble with just having too many ideas, and it's just like, for example, I'm currently writing a rewrite of my first book of Everything Under the Sun, and I was doing that, and then I woke up one day with ideas for world building of a story that I haven't even written yet, that I thought about like 3 years ago. And my brain was like, "So you want ideas for this, right?" I was like, "No, but I'll take them." And then like the 2 days later, I woke up with a an idea for a short story based on the like Fey courts, and and I wrote that into that's up on Readsy now. And it's just really funny just how I can just be like, okay, I'm gonna get this project done. My brain's like, huh, no.
I agree. I am constantly coming up with new ideas. That was just a conversation I was having with a friend constantly coming up with new ideas. I sit down to work on one project so I can finish it, get it done, and the brain's like, remember this vague idea I told you a year ago? Here's all the details you need to create this character and do this, this, and this. And I'm like, I don't even want to work on this right now, but I need to write this down now. And now my attention is shifted, and it becomes so difficult to stay organized and work on things as I give myself deadlines. So, as my deadlines approach, how do you navigate doing prioritizing projects?
I'll just listen to what my brain says, and I'll note that down, and then I'll just spend the rest of the day saying, "No, think about this. No, bad brain, think about this." And sometimes it works.
Good system. You really do have to talk to your brain like that. Like, no, we want to focus. Stop getting distracted.
Yep.
And do you think that is the thing that drives you up the wall about being a writer, or is there something else that just really grinds your gears?
Uh, yeah. So that's really that's one of the biggest things, but it's the constant need for improvement that really gets me going. That's why I'm writing a rewrite of book one right now, because I was looking back at book one, and it's like I wrote that when I was 19. It's not bad for something that was written by someone who was 19, but it doesn't match with the quality of, say, book three, which I just wrote. And so now I'm working to bring it up to the quality level of book three. And it makes it very difficult to look back at your old projects and like, this is out there, but it's not good enough.
Are you a perfectionist?
Oh, absolutely. Without a doubt.
Because I'm like, yep, I am currently going through a poetry book I started when I was 16. And so that was 4 years ago. And I'm looking at them like, this was good for a 16-year-old, but like my writing has improved so much. And I'm like, I don't want to scrap all of these, but I might have to. So I understand.
My father constantly threatens me with the concept of releasing Dragonia Quest for the Legend Flame, the extraordinarily cringy first attempt at writing that I made in middle school. And then I'm just like, please tell me you've deleted those. I've deleted every copy of those. Please tell me you have too. Don't make me come over to your computer and delete them, because I will. Those cannot see the light of day.
Yeah, it's like, oh my gosh, I was a child. Why would you still have that? It's not good. The concept might be interesting, but the actual craft and the technique, get rid of it, please.
I mean, the dragons live in houses like humans, and the main bad guy is literally just Shuriken from Aragon series, but his name is Shuriken because I'm super original. I was a middle schooler.
Exactly. I was just a kid. I don't know. Yeah. Oh, I would definitely delete that.
It has been.
Um, is there anything that you think has been super unhinged that you put in a novel? This is a safe space. We listen and we don't judge.
Uh, I've done a few dark things in my novel, especially in book three. I love leaning into just a little bit of dark fantasy, um, and just I love just seeing how my characters react to dark situations. But probably my darkest thing that I've written is not from a novel at all. It's from a world that I first created for a Dungeons and Dragons campaign called Estraver. It is a world where the magic is highly related to spirits. It's a very spiritual and religion-based magic system, and there are these people called the Tanir, which are people who are blessed and touched by the spirits. And there's this one particular Tanir in there called Faye Soul Dancer, and she is perhaps my most tragic character of all of my many, many tragic characters. She is infected by this demonic entity known as the Maho, a spirit of demonic blood magic that her parents actually infected her with, trying to use her as a key to destroy destroy Maho. They were like, okay, we built this machine. We're going to destroy the aspect of Maho that runs through the sky every year. And they tried. They succeeded, kind of, but ended up making their daughter into the villain the world over.
Hmm.
And she
Very
just spends all of her time just trying to rid herself of the Maho, trying to just find a peaceful end after 200 years of uh, running through with a demon in her body.
wow. So so complex and so many questions, and I honestly just have to read to answer them. um, we're actually running out of time. We only have a few minutes left, so I do want to give this time to you to have the floor and talk about where people can find you and your books and any upcoming releases or anything else you may want to talk about.
So you can find me on. I am on Facebook, but I don't really use social media a lot. I prefer just. I've never really been much for social media, so you can find my books on Amazon, and if you come down to Martha's Vineyard, I'm in the local bookstores here. Um, and other than that, I do most of my outreach on platforms like Reedsy and WordPress, where I have uh, my short stories on Reedsy, and I have a project I'm working on WordPress called The War Mage's Tale, which is a short story being written in 1,000 word chapters that I post occasionally. Um, Upcoming releases, I'm currently working on a rewrite of book one, Everything Under the Sun. And after that, I will be starting to work on the Elunaria saga, which is something that I've rewritten 6 times since I started it in middle school, and it's almost there.
Almost. Um, well, that's it for this episode of Seven Story Podcast. Thank you, Spencer Steeves, for joining us and sharing your story. Make sure you all check out the Astral Kingdom series, including Everything Under the Sun, Sunrise, Sunfall, and Blood of the Sun on Amazon. And until next time, I'm Natasha from Seventh Story. Thank you, Spencer, for being here.
Thank you for having me.